Well, Bear, we hoped that we would have a reason to be here on a Wednesday because that would mean Janesville Craig is in the WIAA Division I State Baseball Championship, and here we are.
We're here with our mascot Scoop. And Scoop,
what is the Scoop?
Scoop is that the Cougars are one game away from a city's first state title since 2001.
In any sport?
In any sport since the Misty Bass era. Back in 2000 or 2000 and 2001.
I did not realize that till our kind of winding, weird ride home last night.
Through beautiful downtown Teresa.
Construction cones and whatever else.
Orange barrels.
And 70 mile an hour speed limits.
Yes, exactly. Your driving was just excellent.
We will break down the Cougars and how they got through the quarterfinals and semifinals on Tuesday and talk about what we're going to see on Thursday against Kimberly in the state championship. And we got a couple other things to cover, golf and the finals and finals.
How about those Warriors?
And we'll get through all that here over the next few minutes. Thanks for joining us on Extra Points, all that and more coming up right now. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Extra Points. We're here in the depths of the Janesville Gazette downtown on Parker Drive, just gearing up for a state championship game.
Let's play ball.
We were up. I'm Eric Schmoldt. I'm the sports editor of the Gazette. This is John Barry.
This is Scoop.
This is
our
Scoop.
mascot.
He's apparently our new mascot.
Yes.
And this is our weekly show where we discuss local and state and national sports, anything that's big and going on in the sports world. And right now here in Janesville, the only thing that's going on is a state championship baseball game Thursday, 6 p.m. in Grand Chute, Fox City Stadium. It's Janesville Craig versus Kimberly.
At Neuroscience Field.
Yeah, Neuroscience Group Field.
Group Field, yes, exactly. Well, I hope the Brainiacs can come through on Thursday for us.
You just got to, you can pay for anything these days to throw your name on it.
No, but I mean, let's face it, Cougars, I don't think things could have played out any better than they have. You get through your first two games. Yeah, you had to use Evan Spry for a third of an inning, but basically you've got two games in with only two pitchers used, and that sets you up on a team that's got some depth in the pitching. That sets you up well for that championship game because you've got two or three options that you can go with. And
we'll talk about those options here in a moment. Let's first just break down how we got to this point. Both teams had to win two games on Tuesday, the quarterfinals, and then you turn right around and play a semifinal that night. Kimberly, they needed extra innings in order to get into the championship game. They won their first game. It was a shutout, and then they come back in the second game against River Falls.
A game they should have lost, actually.
And found a way to get it done. I mean, it went extras, and then both teams scored in extras to send it to a ninth inning, and they won in the ninth. And maybe they had to use a little extra pitching to get here, and that'll be something to watch for on Thursday.
Well, I think the first thing you got to look at when you look at Kimberly is the year they put together athletically. Football team rolled to the Division I state championship, probably the best overall team I've seen come out of the state in a long time. Basketball, they made it to the state tournament, and now here they are playing for a second straight. They were runner-up last year in Division I, and now playing for another state title this year. So obviously, whether it's the seniors or the whole school, that athletic program right now at Kimberly is running on high octane, so to speak. But for them coming into the state tournament, I think you and I both agreed they had the easier bracket. I think the Craig bracket with Bayport, certainly a very good Oconomowoc team with one pitching yesterday for Oconomowoc and beating Bayport. But again, you look at Kimberly. I think pitching-wise, playing that 9 innings, I think they're going to be shorthanded, but let's face it, in the championship game, it's all hands on deck. If you can get an inning out of a guy, and if that's all you want, then that's what it's about. I mean, you're not probably looking for a complete game performance in the championship game. You just want to go inning by inning and just hope at the end that you've scored more runs than the other team. Yeah.
For Craig, shaky when they got started in the quarterfinal against Baraboo, made some base running mistakes, made an error that led to a 1-0 deficit, but found a way to kind of regroup in the 6th inning, scored 5 runs, and that was kind of it. They needed that big inning to really relax. And
Vic Herb's head coach talked about it afterward, that it's the old adage that good teams find a way to win, and they did not play well the first 5 innings. They were Didn't have a lot of energy, I didn't think, and whether it was a state trip or not, I don't know, but just some uncharacteristic things that we hadn't seen from Craig all year. The base running blunders, pop-up falls in the infield in between about 4 guys. Connor Wright fails to get the ball into the infield right away, allows a guy to go to second, he scores. Jack Blomgren makes kind of a haphazard throw to first instead of getting it over there right away, keeps Brand off the base. I mean, just some things that they hadn't done all year. But once I think they got it going, and I think Kevin Brandt's at bat, we both talked about a 9-pitch at bat where he fought off
4 pitches.
Four pitches that were strikes and was able to foul them off and then got the big hit. That kind of got them, got him a little bit unhinged and got him going a little bit and got him on the right track.
He was 3 for 4, 2 doubles, or the game-winning RBI, or I guess it took the lead. They ended up needing another one, but the pivotal RBI, a run scored. He was the player of the game for that first game. I don't think there's any question about that.
No question. And again, I mean, Alex Morrow, a little bit under the radar, but certainly, he's been the ace and he threw like an ace.
Yep, solid. Yep.
1 earned run, I think, is all he allowed. And you go up to state and allow 1 earned run with a team, the capabilities offensively that Craig has, you're going to be in pretty good shape. And as it turns out, they blew it open a little bit in the latter part of that game. But that brought him into Oconomowoc, which was coming off a 1-0 shutout win over a very, very good Bayport team.
Yeah, let's talk about that game just real quick. I mean, Bayport was the number 3 team coming in, Craig number 2, with number 1 Arrowhead not even in the field anymore.
Right.
So Bayport's a solid team, but Oconomowoc, maybe the best pitcher there in Juan, and he pitches that first game. It was his 10th shutout of the season, which is kind of just crazy to think about.
The guy that rode up with you yesterday in the car, what did he say was likely to be the score of the Bayport Oconomowoc game?
I think he said 1-0.
Oh, it was 1-0. What was the final?
I think it was 1-0.
It was 1-0. Okay, I just wanted to double check on that. But no, I mean,
but yeah. So that was the same Oconomowoc pitcher that took out some Prairie in a shutout, and all of a sudden, he's going to carry you to a win.
And he's headed to Jacksonville University to play Division I down there in Florida.
But then you can't use him again in the second
game. And the Bayport pitcher's going to Notre Dame. So these are 2 Division I kids going head-to-head. And Oconomowoc scratched out a run in the first inning. And I don't think either team came really close to scoring after that. Couple of chances late, but nothing that really came of it. And, I think that was good for Craig because certainly there's a drop-off after 1 from Oconomowoc. Although the Clayton kid for a sophomore threw pretty well against Craig. They only had 3 hits off him.
True. But that's all they needed.
That's all they needed because
Chase Nyborg was on fire last night.
Filthy. His curveball was dropping off the proverbial table because, and he said during warm-ups, he said, I know if my breaking ball's working in warm-ups, it's usually going to parlay into success on the field. And with the way that Craig's played defense, he got his 7 strikeouts, but they're going to make plays behind him, and they did. And, no hiccups error-wise that second game, and Nyborg was just in complete control. I think they had 2 runners was all even get to second base.
He clearly the player of the game for game 2, and I think everything just kind of molded together. Like you said, he felt good beforehand. Well, then he gets 2 strikeouts in each of the first 2 innings, and the gentleman sitting next to me in the press box was a guy who had covered that Oconomowoc team a time or 2 throughout the season, and he said, well, this team historically this year hasn't hit breaking ball pitchers or slower speed pitches very well this year. And when you see after 2 innings Chase throwing his curveball the best he's thrown it all season, and that includes a no-hitter, that almost perfect game that he threw earlier, I just kind of knew then that they were in pretty good shape. And it didn't take a whole lot of hits. JT Smithbeck had a clutch 2 RBI single with 2 outs that really gave him some insurance and had to make Chase feel pretty comfortable.
And I think more than anything, maybe that last inning when they got 2 runners on, I think that was more than anything just Chase wearing down a little bit. I mean, that's 7 innings, and it was pretty warm. And, you get to that point, but made a big pitch, got a pop-up to end the game. And once again, for the people that were there, didn't see a lot of celebrating from the Cougars. And that's the sign of they know there's work ahead of them, and they're not going to be satisfied until they leave there with that gold ball. And, they were happy, and they ran out to congratulate Nyborg, but there wasn't a lot of jumping or celebrating. They were just like, okay,
one more to go.
One more step out of the way, and now we've reached our final destination, and let's hope that it ends on a good note.
Kimberly, I think, is number 4. I think they came in number 4. We thought they would make it through the side of that bracket, and there they are. They look a little similar to Craig when you look at their stats. They've got a 3rd and 4th guy that look like they've come in and thrown some decent innings when they've needed to this year. So it could be it should be a pretty good matchup, I would think.
Well, and
for
I
the
would think,
championship.
Craig really hasn't swung the bats well the first 2 games, and I would expect them to come out and be a little bit more productive offensively. Again, you would hope with the fact that both teams are on what we're basically calling their number 3 pitchers that you're going to score some runs. And, if Craig can get up early like they've done all year, then, that might help Spry to relax, or if Spry doesn't maybe have it right away, Vic's got options. He can go with Nick Blomgren. He can go with Nick Kramer. It's one of those cases where each pitcher you got in there is on a pretty short leash.
You just gave it away. We hadn't even said who Craig was going to start yet. That was going to be like a big reveal or something.
Oh, okay. Well, it's going to be Evan Spry.
All right, we need a timeout here. This is what we like to do, a Zach Morris move. You kids at home probably don't know it because you're too young, but this is when we got to call timeout, do an aside because something's changed. Well, it sounds like the Craig Cougars have not decided on a starting pitcher yet. They may go with Nick Kramer after all. We break down the basics for you here anyway, but just so you know, we don't know a certain starter yet. Now back to it. Well, I thought maybe we'd have an argument about who it would be.
Oh, well, we did have an argument. Neither one of us picked Spry, but I think Vic Herp knows his team better than you and I do. And at 28-1, I'm not going to argue with him. You want to put your water boy out there, you go ahead because you know that team better than anybody. But no, obviously, by going with Spry, I mean, it does create some lineup changes for him.
I mean, I guess we can break it down. Here are kind of the options that they have, and these are all good options to have.
Yeah, there's not any
We're
bad
going to
ones.
nitpick at them and kind of find what's good about each situation and what's not. But let's be honest that every guy that they've put out there this year has come through and pitched in big innings. And Spry did it Tuesday, and Nick Kramer's done it several times. He's kind of been their number 3 for most of the year, who I thought they would probably go with because that keeps your infield intact, that keeps your star catcher behind the plate.
Yep.
Doesn't change much except for the fact that you would probably have to bat Nick Kramer in the lineup. I think that would be the only downfall, in the fact that he's a sophomore and it would be his first time pitching at state.
Right.
But to me, I thought that would be the way they would go. You obviously can make a case for Nick Blomgren.
And certainly in talking to Nick Blomgren after the game, he had that look in his eye. I'm like, okay, does your mindset change at all going into Thursday night, knowing that you may have to give this team some innings? He goes, no, I'm ready. I want to pitch. And I really thought Nick may have gone to Vic and said, hey, look, Coach, give me the ball. I'm ready to go. And Nick, there's not anybody up at state that throws harder than Nick. He's probably upper 80s, maybe tops out at 90 a few times, and nobody's touched him all year.
But here's the thing. He hasn't started a game all year, so it's not. He's been their closer most of the time.
Yep.
So he's coming in usually in late innings.
But again, we're talking the state championship game. I mean, it's all bets are off.
But then you also have to put freshman Jake Campbell behind the plate, which not a deficiency by any means, because as far as if you saw him playing for any other team, you wouldn't think he was a freshman anyway. But still, it's state.
And when your dad is Pat Campbell, who's in about 8 baseball Hall of Fames, you've been trained pretty well, and I don't think there's a huge drop off with Jake. But I certainly understand.
It's a freshman.
It's a freshman.
You have a senior
state title
put
game
behind the plate who can keep charge.
And then again, you look at it you kind of look at it. Okay, is Vic wanting to go offense or is he wanting to go defense? And I think if Blomgren starts, you stick with the offense. You trade, Campbell probably sticks as a batter, and you DH for Connor Wright with either Nyborg or Smithbeck. My guess would be Nyborg, and Campbell bats. But again, Vic knows his team. And if he thinks, I'm sure he sat down with his assistants, Ben Yacher and Keith Wright and Pat Campbell and Tommy Imhoff and those guys, and they probably all threw their 2 cents in there. And I think when it came down to it, my guess is they may have voted, and they just said, look, we think Evan Spry is our best option, and I'm sure that's kind of how it panned out.
He looked good coming in a jam against Baraboo. He pitched 2/3 of an inning. That'll count as a full inning, so he only has 6
innings. Right.
I would guess they're not even going to try to count on him for 6 because you can go unless he's really dealing.
Right, or Craig gets up big early, which that would be the ideal scenario, and then you don't have to worry about it so much. You don't have to get cute, and you don't have to pick corners. You just throw it down the middle and let your defense make plays. He's
just go through some numbers here. 3-0 on the season. He's pitched in 9 games, just 2 starts, but he's 3-0 with a 2.92 ERA and 18 strikeouts in 24 innings. He and Kramer have pretty similar numbers. Kramer started a few more games, which is, I guess, the only reason I thought maybe they would go to him. But so now you have Spry going. Maybe you only counted him for 2 or 3 innings. Then you have Kramer you can count on for 2 or 3 innings. And then you can come to the fireballer with 2 innings at the end if you have a lead and try to go to Nick Blomgren and see if he can close that game out like he's done a couple times this year.
He started 3 games. So you've gone 3 games where Macaulay Cox has moved to third, Sam Carlson's played second. And it's just, again, that familiarity. Maybe Carlson doesn't quite turn the double play ball as quickly as Cox does, or maybe something like that. Now, I think Sam Carlson's a very adequate baseball player. I mean, he would start regularly on most teams, but obviously when you're on the number 2 team in the state that's 28-1, you got to pick your spots. But I think for the most part, that's the only question I have is, boy, you're really changing up your infield, something that's really worked well for you. And all of a sudden now you've got 2 guys playing different positions that they haven't played a lot at. And
I think they've done it enough this year that they should be okay. And I feel like
again, who knows his team better than Vic? Nobody.
I feel like I'm Adam Schefter here or something, because I literally just got a text back about that infield just because we wanted to make sure that since Bry was pitching that it would be Cox to third and Carlson to second, and sure enough
that's
it is.
What it is.
I'm breaking news here.
Okay,
on this.
Breaking news.
This is a first for Extra Points.
It is.
And
we can thank Scoop for that. Scoop got the word out.
He says it sounds like you're on our staff or have seen us play a lot of games. So now I feel really good because he even gave me a compliment.
Well, he did. And let's face it, Vic's been, he's been great through all this, as all the Craig kids said. I mean, this has been a magical ride. I mean, for these guys and, for us as reporters, it's fun. I mean, there's nothing like a state tournament. I don't care what sport it is. It's great. The venue up at Grand Chute is incredible. I mean, for those of you going up there tomorrow night, Thursday night, well worth the trip. It's just good luck getting there.
You can catch it on Fox Sports Wisconsin. If you can't make it up there, you can follow me on Twitter. I'll be up there providing some live updates as we did last night, which was pretty fun to interact with folks that weren't up there. And, it should be fun. I think
should be fun.
It's been too long since Janesville's had a state champion.
It has. Brian and Jessica Lawton's successful Craig cross country programs had a couple of top 5s, but never state championships. So you have to go back to the Misty Bass era at Janesville Parker when the Vikings under Tom Clowder won back-to-back state titles in 2000 and 2001. So it's been 14 years that this city's been without a state title. And
of course, Craig won a baseball title in 98.
98. So let's start the festivities rolling again and start that state title stuff. That's fun stuff.
Yep, it would be fun to see. Hopefully we see a gold ball come back to town.
I would hope so.
Heading into next week, we may not be in this spot next week because we might take a week off. We've got the Ray Fischer golf tournament coming to town next week at the Riverside. Always kind of a fun weekend here in town. You get guys that come in from all over the place, all around the state to play. The
University
they hope to play 4 rounds.
The University of Wisconsin, Marquette University, Wisconsin Public Links Golf Association tournament. Is that the one you're talking about?
Is that what we're calling it these
basically,
days?
Yeah. No, that's what it's been for so long. Is you take the best kids from Marquette. And the best kids from Wisconsin who are state players. In some cases, they just have residency in Wisconsin, and they're usually the ones that come out of there with a win.
Not the past couple of years,
no. No, not the last couple, but
not since I've been back. This will be my
third
one.
We should probably do better homework, but I'm not even sure who won it last year.
Oh yeah, it was. Well, yeah. Now I'm not going to remember his name, but he went to school over at Parkside, and then now I think he's down in Florida.
Okay. So it was a college kid.
Yeah, and it's been college kids recently, but it hasn't necessarily been Marquette or Wisconsin.
Okay, all right, I'll give you that. But no, I mean it's 3 days of golf at Riverside Golf Course in town, which again is for a long time been considered one of the finest public courses in the state. The guys love playing it because they can go after the pins. It's usually a birdie fest, 15, 16, 17 under for 72 holes usually wins that thing, and that's what's fun for those guys because they don't play a lot of summer tournaments where that's the case. A lot of their tournaments that they're playing, whether it's a state amateur or whatever it might be, anything below par is usually a stretch, where in this case, they know that they've got to go 68, 67 each round to give themselves a chance.
The course is in great condition.
It always is.
It always is. But we got some rain lately, and I think they're going to be able to do kind of whatever they want. The rough probably could be as long as they want it to be, or as challenging as they want it to be, and it should be interesting to see how they have it play. They play Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday they cut and then the final 36 on Sunday at Riverside. And again, for those people looking for something to do, these are the best amateur golfers in the state, and Tony Romo's played in the past. It's a tournament that some of Wisconsin's top golfers in the past have won. Stricker, Skip Kendall. I mean, it's a great tournament. It's one of the best amateur tournaments you're going to find, and certainly for this area, it's the premier golf tournament.
Should mention, I guess we could give a congratulations to Bobby Kennedy because he's getting married, but then let people know that they may not see some of the Janesville names that they're used to seeing toward the top of the leaderboard, like a Sam Van Gelder. Bobby plays in it a lot, and a lot of those other guys from Janesville that play it will be over at his wedding. So, wedding weekend.
Best of luck to you, Bobby.
Wedding weekend on Fisher weekend. So we might not see some of those typical names.
And a name that I haven't checked because I don't think they've released the list yet. Certainly is.
You could still sign up through Friday.
Is Matt Boehm, certainly a past champion and the course record holder, with a 10 under par 62, and I'm not sure if Matt is still up in Sheboygan working at the Bog. I'm not sure, but certainly if he's playing, no one knows that course like Matt Boehm does. So, a guy that could certainly be in the hunt if he's playing that tournament.
So Jay was Wisniewski was the one?
Wisniewski, yeah. All right. I knew our producer over here, Andy Ryder, was going to help us out.
You were never going to come up with that, I can guarantee.
Well, I remember following on Twitter, and I remember looking it up a couple of weeks ago.
And we don't know. Is Jay coming back? I don't know. Usually they don't.
I don't know. Yeah, we won't know until we get to the list. You can sign up till Friday.
I don't think we've had back-to-back Fisher champions in a while. Charlie Delsman maybe from Colgate might have been the last one, but I'm not sure. But
Jake,
yeah. Jake, yep.
Okay, well, butcher the guy's name some more, okay?
I didn't. I said Jake.
That's fine. No, but I mean, it like I say, looking for something to do, come down and plop your chair on the 18th green or the 18th fairway and just
You can walk around with me if you want and help keep scores.
Watch some
Sunday.
good golf and, just it's a good time, and hopefully the weather cooperates.
Before that, we've got the U.S. Open this weekend on the PGA Tour.
And the public links on the British...
they're playing at Chambers Bay out in Washington. Yeah, a little linksy course, kind of like Erin Hills.
Have you heard anything good about that? I have not.
Well,
the players don't like it.
Yeah, well, I think the people who like golf and like to watch challenging golf like it. I mean, boo-hoo for the players. You're a professional. Learn how to play. Understand it and play it and figure it out. That's your job. I understand it's tough for spectators because the walking is so much elevation change. That's going to make things difficult, But
don't we get enough? Don't we get enough of the links course with the British Open? Why do we need it here in the U.S.? I mean, why can't the U.S. Open be played at a traditional U.S. type course?
I think the beauty of the U.S. Open is it can be a little bit of everything. The U.S. is a melting pot there.
Well, it is. Well, it's melted into a tournament now that not one golfer has said anything positive about this course yet, and you may see some scores and some egos deflate before.
That's
the whole
fine. Isn't that what the U.S. Open's kind of always been about? In all these tournaments that go on these days where people finish 25 under par, I mean, the U.S. Open's always been about we don't care what par is or if you win it with even par. We don't need to see somebody 20 under.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm disappointed.
It's going to be the same thing in 2 years at Erin Hills, the course that's here in Wisconsin, because it's the same style. The other argument that I've heard is that, look at California right now with the water shortage that it's facing, and I think water is becoming a bigger entity, and so I think a lot of people think this is what courses are going to maybe
There's
look
not a
like.
tree on the course. Not one tree.
There's not really any at Erin Hills either.
Wow,
they're very similar.
You know what?
They're long.
For me, I think what bothers me more than
challenging.
anything is obviously Stricker's my favorite. And he's not playing, so I've taken less interest in the U.S. Open just because.
But your boy Spieth is like the
Jordan
favorite.
will be in there, and he's a favorite, and his caddy used to caddy on that course, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
He's caddied when it first opened, so I think that's a nice little advantage for him.
I like to watch Steve play, and I don't think he's ever going to win a major, but it sure would be fun to see him, and he's not playing this weekend, so my interest is waning. I will tune in just to see what happens.
You're just going to watch him just to see the people get mad.
Yeah, I want to see somebody fire their club up and hit into. Oh, that's right. They don't have any trees.
It'll be the longest U.S. Open ever, 7,800 yards.
Well, that's all right. Then you and I will have a scratch bet. Tiger makes the cut or doesn't make the cut?
I will say that he doesn't.
Doesn't make the cut? I'll say he does.
All right. You're going out on a limb there.
I'm going on a lim there. Okay. Tiger makes the cut, and I've got.
You're taking Spieth.
I'm taking Spieth to win it.
Oh boy, I'm going to go something weird. I'm going to take somebody weird. Who am I going to take?
Kevin Na.
Brooks Koepka.
Brooks Koepka. All right. Brooks and Jordan, and Tiger makes the cut. You say Tiger doesn't make the cut. Stay tuned for the thrilling results from this
Because our predictions were so close on the NBA and the NHL finals.
My prediction was one game off. I had the Warriors winning it, and they did. And both you and I, under our breath, said, "Oh, the Blackhawks will win it in 5."
I had the Blackhawks even in my breath.
It even took 6 for the Blackhawks to win it. But funny how the Stanley Cup had to go 100 miles an hour to get to the United Center so they could award it to them because they couldn't figure out well in advance that Chicago had a chance to clinch it that game. But
even though that was the case, like somebody was going to have a chance to clinch it there and
Right.
only there like 5 days in advance.
Right. But and Chicago had a tornado and
Still
10 feet
stupid,
of rain and
but-
everything else.
I mean, considering that they drag these things on into June, which is silly in and of itself, we couldn't have asked for 2 better series because the hockey series was basically a 1-goal game for the entire way through. LeBron put the Cavs on his back and almost gave them a chance in a series they should have had no business even being in. So we got some pretty good excitement considering we had to watch late into June.
My only complaint is how many people jumped on the Blackhawk bandwagon that probably hadn't watched a hockey game all year, and all of a sudden they're on Facebook saying how much they love the Blackhawks.
Well.
And, it was exciting. Great hockey. The NBA Finals were exciting. LeBron was king of the world and just didn't have a good enough supporting cast. But I think for the hockey, I know I watched the final game, and even though it was 0-0 toward the end of the second period before the Blackhawks scored, the most exciting 0-0 game I've ever watched. The action was fast-paced. The shots, Crawford and our buddy, the big guy from Tampa, Ben Bishop, were lights out, stopping everything, and just the speed and athleticism of those guys is just incredible. We've watched a lot of hockey with the Jets, and those kids skate hard and try hard, but boy, the NHL, the speed is so dynamic.
And
it's just
bigger sheets of ice as well.
Yeah, it's just so fun to watch.
Dynasty?
Somebody else talked about. Let's call it a mini dynasty. Dynasty to me is like the Edmonton Oilers or the Islanders or the Canadians. Those are dynasties when I think NHL. 3 and 6 years, impressive, but I don't think I'm ready to call it a dynasty.
I don't. In this era of sports, I just don't know how.
Well, how do you define it?
When are we ever going to see anything better than 3 and 6?
Exactly.
I don't think it's really. So I think if this isn't necessarily the definition of dynasty from the 70s or 80s,
right?
I think it is now, just because I don't know how you would ever win more than 3.
And does it rate with Gretzky's Oilers? I don't think so.
And because the Blackhawks have had some of those guys that have been there for the whole thing,
right.
I think also helps the cause. And
now they got to figure out how to keep those guys all together. I think Kane and Taze are both wrapped up for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
but
they're just getting
a lot of those other guys
they're
gonna have to decide whether we bring them back because they're gonna ask for and probably get a lot of money.
But they figured out a way. They've kept those guys. They've paid them gazillions of dollars to keep that core together, and I think they've still got a couple of good years in them, and they've found a way to build around them and build back up around them and do whatever it takes. So I think they've got they could win another one in the next year.
They could, and we probably won't talk about it until the Stanley Cup Finals next year. So
mostly because you just hate Chicago.
I do. I'm not a Chicago fan. Sorry.
All right. Those championships are wrapped up. Craig's chance at one will wrap up tomorrow, and hopefully you'll follow along with us. Let us know what you thought of the show today. Check us out on YouTube or iTunes. Find us on Twitter or email us at sports@gazetteextra.com. Thanks, as always, to producer Andy Ryder, who comes up with the facts that we don't look up ahead of time.
He's just amazing. He's a wealth of knowledge.
And to Kevin McLeod for shelling out the tunes for us.
Yes, Kevin. Kevin's soundtrack of life right there.
State championship tomorrow.
Best of luck, Cougars.